Oh, it is Friday once more. Finally Friday. Everybody get into the room. I hope you're doing well. Wherever you may be in this great big world of ours. Marshall McLuhan says we are a global village. So we're all next door neighbors as far as I'm concerned. 30 seconds. Stand by. Here we go. Finally, Friday is being brought to you this week by Major Spoilers VIP and Patreon members from around the world. You can show your support and help us go far into the future by pointing your browser to patreon.com/Major Spoilers. Oh, happy Friday to everyone out there, wherever you may be. Bring this down just a little bit. Oh, there we go. That way you guys can all hear us. And when I say us, I'm talking Ashley Victoria Robinson joining us once again. Hello, Ashley.
Hello.
How you doing? It's been a crazy week, especially as of events yesterday happening there in California.
Yeah, California, various cities in California have been on a lockdown, but yesterday, Los Angeles Mayor Eric Garcetti officially announced that we are not allowed to leave our homes unless it is when we are practicing responsible social distancing and for absolute necessities, which for some reason still include restaurants.
Well, I mean, people got to eat. I know you've been.
I don't think a restaurant is an essential service. We have grocery stores. I understand that, but restaurant to me is frivolous.
Literally, some people do not know how to cook.
Well, that's that's your problem, I guess.
Yeah, no, I mean that's the only reason I can see with that. Now we used to go to a buy groceries as needed, but we're going to a weekly grocery shopping thing and mostly hanging out. Although today we did go because Animal Crossing did not arrive when it was supposed to, and the boy was bouncing off the wall, and the youngest was like, I think I want to play Animal Crossing too. So we went to GameStop to pick up a copy of Animal Crossing. And the guy was very adamant about only allowing 10 people in the store at a time. So I was impressed on that, but at the same time, he seemed kind of flummoxed because it was like suddenly there were 15 people wanting to get into the store, and that probably wasn't the case, 10 minutes before we got there. It was probably empty. And then all of a sudden, 15, 20 people want to come into the store to get stuff. So strange times indeed.
Absolutely.
Somebody asked in the chat, how is virtual college classes going? So classes at Fort Hays State University just canceled classes for this week. Then next week is spring break. So virtual only goes next week. I've taught virtual classes before for years. So for me, it's not that big of a deal, although I do have to take my advanced video production class and move it online because it's never been done that way before. And the boys, the kids, the school district canceled classes for the rest of the year. For face-to-face, and I believe they've been sending out surveys the last couple of days. I think they just sent out another one, wanting to know what people's accessibility to the internet and different things are, because I think starting next week, or not next week, the week after spring break, the grade school, middle school, and high school will also go virtual only for that kind of stuff.
That's interesting. I have a brother-in-law who lives in Kansas, and he is in his last year of high school, and they also canceled their classes through the end of the year. And as far as I know, they don't know what that's going to look like, whether they're just going to graduate them all with the grades that they have. But he in his home does not have access to the internet.
Yeah, and that's part of the problem with the digital divide is that, yes, everyone assumes that everyone has high-speed internet access. Up until maybe 2 years ago, I had super fast internet access at 150 megabits per second, but now through Cox and through others, you can get 200, 300 megabit per second speeds. And so that only separates that distance between the haves and the have-nots in our country. And unfortunately, when you're in a smaller community, like where your brother-in-law is, I'm familiar with that area of the state. Yeah. It does become very hard for people to even have internet access if they live out in the country. My parents still do not have high-speed internet access. They have to go with a weird satellite dish pointed at a water tower 10 miles away to even get a decent internet access to where it was like 20, 30 years ago kind of access.
Yeah.
So, I can understand that. And they did pass in the state of Kansas, and this is why your brother-in-law will probably graduate without having to complete the last half of his semester, is the Kansas passed a rule that said you no longer have to have 1,100 hours in a year to be advanced to the next grade. And then they canceled classes and then said, okay, school districts, figure out how you want to do it. So regardless, the other thing, K through 8, I believe, you can't hold a kid back without a parent's permission. So all these kids would advance anyway. Once you get into high school, it's a different matter. So
I think that's, especially given the current circumstances being as weird as they are, I think that's what it should be, because it's the path of least resistance, and it's going to help us move forward and figure out what it's going to look like if we're still in this situation in June, July, and August.
Yeah. A lot of things have been canceled now. I was surprised. I was supposed to be at Planet Comic-Con last weekend to be on a panel about podcasting. Obviously, Planet Comic-Con was canceled. We talked about that last week.
I was supposed to have seen Mulan last night.
Oh, yeah, that's
I was supposed
right.
to go to that screening.
Yeah. They did say last week that they would announce on the 17th, which was Tuesday, Wednesday this week, when the new comic convention would be. And they announced it. Sure enough, it's going to be in August. I think it's the second week in August, the 14th through the 18th, I believe. And I was like, oh, wow, that is really fast for them to turn around. Now, I don't think that they're at the municipal auditorium where they have been in the past. But they did
They're
reschedule
looking at a different location?
I think some were looking at a different location, because then the next thing I was like, oh, well, what about Emerald City Comic Con? Were they able to announce when they're going to bring their show back? And sure enough, Emerald City Comic Con in this last week said that they are pushing Emerald City Comic Con August 21st to the 23rd, this time at the Washington State Convention Center. I don't know if that's where it's been in the past.
I don't believe so.
Yeah,
I believe that is the Seattle Convention Center.
So they found a new convention center to have this. My concern now is you're going to have so many conventions that were canceled that are trying to make up, that they're going to be stacked on top of one another for the foreseeable future, which will probably limit the guests that are going to be able to come to some of these events. It's
also going to limit your audience, because there's a lot of people who go back and forth. I know, like, where you're from, in that sort of it's not called the tri-state area, is it?
There's a tri-state area between like Omaha, Kansas City, and Denver, or St. Louis.
Yeah. And like, there's a lot of people that kind of hop around the major cities there. In Southern California, there's just so many conventions to be had, even on the West Coast. I know New England is very similar. Like, a lot of people go to Boston, who go to Baltimore, who go to New York City Comic-Con. So if all of these conventions are happening the same weekend or weekend after weekend, economically, I don't know what that is going to look like. You spoke to the fact that, like, guests might be harder to wrangle, but also we're getting companies, like, if anyone follows Funko, and I'm sure everyone who's watching this follows Funko, they dropped their Emerald City exclusives. They're dropping their WonderCon exclusives early.
Yeah.
And something that I know Steven and I are going to talk about in a little bit, we're starting to get news and entertainment announcements that I think were probably going to be held for TCA's WonderCon, San Diego Comic-Con. So what are we going to be announcing in August? Who knows?
I think it's just going to be,
assuming that everything works out and we're actually having these conventions.
If they wanted to theme these correctly, it should just be called "Let's Come Together." Let's.
I like that.
Yeah. So, but speaking of things that are being released early, we talked about this on the Major Spoilers podcast this week, and I've been talking about it for years, that movie studios need to get to VoD as quickly as they can. After it hits a movie theater, or better yet, I demand, same day service, because I hate going to the movie theaters, right? It's just my pet peeve. And I'll be honest, when it came time for Birds of Prey to be in the theater, I was like, yeah, I really want to see this movie, but I really don't want to go to our theater just because it's always such a poor quality experience. So I skipped Birds of Prey. I skipped Outbound or Outward or whatever that movie is. Onward that just came out. The kids had no interest in Frozen 2, although they just watched it this past week. And
I'm about to watch it tonight, to be completely honest.
And they had no interest in going to the movie theater to see the Sonic movie. So what has happened since all the theaters have shut down? Regal shut down, AMC shut down. Jimmy Palmiotti had questioned a couple of weeks ago, what would the cost be if they decided to go video on demand for a rental? And I was like, $40 seems to be reasonable, because then the studios, if they were nice, and they still haven't said anything about this, they would take a portion of that $40 and give it to the movie theaters.
They
He
are
said,
absolutely not doing that.
yeah, they're absolutely not doing that. The Jimmy Palmiotti was like, no, 1999, and I was like, yeah, for 48 hours that would make sense. And sure enough,
or even 72 hours, yeah.
yeah, and so what we've seen is Universal, Disney, and a bunch of others have announced that, yeah, all these movies that were supposed to be in theaters, including Bloodshot, which I kind of hinted at this week on the Major Spoilers podcast, it wouldn't surprise me if it came to streaming early. All these movies are landing on VoD like now or in the next week.
I think that is so cool because I'm very excited about a bunch of movies that are coming out right now. And even before social distancing was super, super encouraged, we decided not to go to the movie theater. So like The Hunt, the much maligned The Hunt is finally coming out. Damon Lindelof's movie. Bloodshot is coming out. Emma, which I'm super excited about. But not only is it exciting given the circumstances, but I would imagine this is kind of exciting for people who live in a more remote area. Like my mom lives in Atlantic Canada, doesn't always get what we get in Los Angeles at the same time, but now suddenly there's access. And if this turns out to be financially viable, I think, as predicted by Steven Schleicher with his tinfoil hat, we might see
not tinfoil
more
hat
things like this.
I've got my crystal ball peering into the future of what is going to happen, Ashley. Not like tinfoil hat.
Leone. Well, the tinfoil hat, that's a long-standing Major Spoilers podcast, even before my time.
And honestly, I was interested in seeing Bloodshot. And then I was like, no, I really don't want to see it because it came out the same weekend that everybody was starting to shut things down. And I was like, well, there's no way I'm going to see this movie now. And Bloodshot was just announced that I believe it's coming out today. I believe there's like a couple of movies that were in theaters.
It's either today, in the Did You Hear That published today, I broke down everything that's coming out either today or next Friday. And then there's a list at the bottom of the article. That's everything that's already on VOD or streaming. That's kind of like Star Wars is already out. So if you want to know for sure, that's where to find the date of when those movies release.
1917's coming out early.
So good.
I want to see that. That's another one that I didn't go to the theater to see. Now it is available for pre-order. And this is not some of these movies are purchased now for $19.99. Others are
Little
rental.
Women is purchased now,
Yeah, I think Bloodshot is a rental one.
Onward is currently right now, it's a $19.99 purchase, but April 3rd, it's going to go up on Disney Plus. So what's great about that is it helps people in both economic situations. So if you can't afford to and you want to support it early, you can. Or April 3rd is like two weeks away.
Yeah. So like Frozen 2, I had already purchased it when it landed on digital. So I had already I'd already seen it. No, wait, maybe I watched it when they dropped it because they did drop that early on Disney Plus. I must have watched it on Disney Plus
last week.
Yeah, I watched it
earlier this week.
I watched it on Disney Plus, and at the time, the boys were not interested in seeing it. I think they were just like, we're older now, we don't want to see this movie. And then, sure enough, Wednesday this week, I go upstairs, and I'm like, oh, are you guys watching Frozen 2? And they're like, no. And I was like, it's okay. It's a fine movie. It's okay. It's not as good as the first one, but it's fine if you guys want to watch that. So they watched Frozen 2. They watched Wreck-It Ralph 2. I forget what else they watched. But now there's, a lot more stuff to kind of keep them occupied until they go back to classes. Now, that being said, the teachers have been very, very good about providing some kind of like homework during this time. Yesterday, the youngest went through I think 8 really hard math problems. Like you have to eliminate there's like 3 categories. And you have to eliminate people based on clues and then add things up and figure out, which one was who ate the most strawberry tarts and who ate the most banana tarts. And that boy, I got pretty proud of him. He worked until, I think we started about 7:30 in the morning. And then he worked until about 9:30 and then took a break. And then about 10:30, he came down and he was like, do I have to finish the rest of these? I said, I would like for you to get these done before lunchtime. And he went back up and sure enough, he had them. He was working on it right up until lunchtime and only missed one out of the whole thing because the teacher sent an out. Yeah, so he was really good today. He did his homework early. That means he has the rest of the day to play. And now that it's the weekend, they have plenty of time to watch videos. So for those of you who are in the chat, and thank you, everybody, for showing up in the chat. Marshall Nesbitt is going to watch Onward, it looks like. The Great NATO says, I was working for our school district in IT, and it's been nuts. We've been ordered to do support from home starting Monday. Oh, you're fried? Oh, for a minute there, I thought it said you were fired again, and I was like, oh, no. I can imagine that you're fried. At the university, they came and we have laptop carts that we check out to students during class so that we can all work on stuff together, because not every kid has a laptop.
Yeah.
And we were trying to see
we were just talking about that in fact.
I know. We were trying to see if we couldn't get some students to get those laptops home. And the university told us, no way, because we're going to need it the minute that we go to everybody stays at home. And sure enough, on Wednesday morning, they said, get your stuff and get out and start working from home. And that's everybody except for essential employees, which are the food services people, because there are some kids that are stuck in the dorms, international students and those kinds of things.
I'd imagine there'd be a handful of admin, too, that just kind of have to be there and keep regulations going.
Yeah. So the question that I have for everybody in the chat, also, we are dual streaming this over to the Discord channel. So hopefully for those of you in the Discord, audio is coming through. This is something that I've been working on. One of the nice things about being able to work from home is that I finally got the PC. Normally we stream everything on the Mac, but in the last 6 months or so, we've been moving over to PC. We have everything going over to the PC, and now we're streaming over to Discord today. And it's just audio only. So I see Mark Smith 72 is hanging out over there. So hopefully everything sounds good over there, Mark. So thank you for that. But I'm curious, for those of you that are at home, Ashley has run through a bunch of movies. If you want to check out and see what's over there, go check out the Did You Hear article over at majorspoilers.com. I had that up a moment ago. I want to know what you guys are going to do during this time at home when you are doing VoD and chill. What are the things that you're most looking forward to? I still have to finish watching The Chilling Adventures of Sabrina Season 2 and Season 3. There is a plague movie that takes place in feudal Japan that I don't know if it's a zombie movie or not, that's on Netflix. The second season just dropped. And
I think that's a Korean show.
Oh, yeah, Korean. That's what it is.
Yes. I can't think of what it is, and they're kind of vampires.
Yeah.
That show is great, and I cannot think of what it's called.
So I want to see that. That's another one on my list. I finished our Altered Carbon Season 2, and then the other one that I just started 2 nights ago is the final season of Star Wars Clone Wars. And I got to tell you,
good.
It's thrown me off a little bit because Star Wars Clone Wars ended so long ago, and we've had Star Wars Rebels in between, that when I started watching this, I was like, why is Anakin still here? What's going on? And it took me a minute to go, oh, wait a minute. This is before Order 66 and before the Empire fell.
I actually think these episodes have been really good, but this is like the third time we've had the final season of Clone Wars. We had the final season on TV, we had the final season on Netflix, and now we have the final season on Disney+. So.
Yeah, maybe I haven't seen the Netflix version, because, I'm kind of confused in some parts, but I really like, I've watched the first 3 episodes, and so we get to see, what are they called? The
Bad Bunch.
The Bad Bunch, which I really kind of dig that. There's definitely one of them.
It's the Bad Batch.
The Bad Batch. Okay, that's right. And then all the rest of the clone troopers are called regs because they're regular clones. So
which is so funny.
Yeah, so I kind of like that. I guess I really haven't paid too much attention to the tech. What is it called? The tech syndicate, or whatever that group of people are. The big square head guys with all the retro sci-fi tech stuff that they have is pretty cool. So it was interesting to see them kind of play the bad guys, and what's his name? Trench. I forget what his designation is, the spider dude with the cybernetics all over his body. Very, very cool. And the animation is good. I watched the first episode on Wednesday night after we were done with Critical Hit. And then last night after we finished up the Flashback podcast, I sat down and I was like, you know what? I kind of want to watch the next 2 episodes. And so I watched the next 2 episodes, and I was like, man, I kind of want to watch another, but it's getting late and I need to go to bed. So I'm digging what we have so far. And how many episodes are out already? 5 or 6 episodes are out already?
I think it's 4 or 5, yeah.
Okay, so it looks
You're pretty close.
It looks like Osaka, I keep messing up her name. Ahsoka has just shown up in one of the episodes in either 4 or 5.
Yeah, so that's the series that she originates in, is the Clone Wars.
Yeah. So pretty exciting right there. A lot of people buzzing about that. And then today, just before we sat down to record, another bit of Star Wars Mandalorian news that Ahsoka, I'll get this right. I used to have no problem saying it. Now I'm all Ahsoka is going to come into Mandalorian Season 2, and Rosario Dawson is going to play the character.
Yeah.
Are you interested in that? Excited about that? I mean, there is a person who's been playing the part for many years.
Yeah, I'm like soft excited for it because I've been saying forever that I want to see Ahsoka in live
Hmm.
action. But like you pointed out, Ashley Eckstein has been the voice of Ahsoka since she first appeared in the Star Wars Clone Wars movies, which is low key terrible. We're
Yeah,
lucky that the season turned out as great as it did.
yeah,
And she is iconically associated with that character, and she's very beautiful, and she's an actress. So look, they could have offered her the part and it could have not come through for any number of reasons. They could have never considered her for the part because she's a voiceover actress. So, like, God forbid we let her do anything in real life. And
yeah.
Rosario Dawson, who is playing the part, who is a great actress,
Hmm.
and I'm not saying I'm not excited, I'm just cautious. Um, she obviously has a great relationship with the Disney umbrella. She
Yeah.
plays Claire the night nurse on the Netflix Marvel series.
Hmm.
She's got a great face for being a Star Wars alien,
Yep.
but as like such a hardcore Ahsoka fan, and as someone who's become a fan of Ashley Eckstein and her clothing company, her universe, that's the first place that my brain goes to. And no one owes me an explanation. I'm just a fan. I don't own that character.
Hmm.
But I would be interested if in the coming years, and hopefully Rosario Dawson kills it and is incredible, if we sort of learn why she was the person who they picked.
Yeah, and so then I wonder if they're going to do that, if we're going to see some of the Rebels characters showing up as well. Or maybe not. No,
Just
they might,
give
right?
me Rex. They
Well,
actually kind of should all die.
well,
If
except
people have
for what's his name,
watched
the kid who disappeared, and everyone's like, "Well, we're going to
Ezra,
go Ezra. We're going to go search for Ezra now."
we could see Hera, and we could see her, and this is a spoiler alert for Star Wars Rebels, which has been over for years. What? We could see her and Kanan's kid.
Yeah, yeah.
We could also see Sabine. Sabine is still alive. But if
Hmm.
you remember from Rebels, Ahsoka does a little time travel-y
Hmm.
time travel. So there's a chance that she might be the only one we see, or if she is well received, I think that might open the floodgates, and it's like, here's Hera, here's Ezra, here's
Yeah,
you get a Star Wars character, you get a Star
yeah.
Wars character, you get a Star Wars
Or
character.
how about some more Star Wars series? Now, the interesting thing is, I'm pretty sure I saw just a couple of weeks ago that season 2 of Mandalorian already wrapped. So they've been keeping this Rosario
Mm-hmm.
Dawson bit under wraps for a long time.
Well, we hear about the Marvel snipers all the time and how intense they are with casting and leaking
Hmm.
of secrets and stuff like that. So I would imagine that, again, considering they were all under that same corporate umbrella, Disney keeps things quite close to the vest.
Yeah. Okay, let's talk rumor here for just a moment.
That's
Remember I said that just because someone steps down doesn't mean that a company is being sold. I talked about this with
yes.
Dan DiDio. Now, Bob Iger stepped down a couple of weeks ago, and I'm reading through, and I forget if it was the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, that because of this huge drop in the stock market, like Disney shares are like at 100 or less right now.
They're cheap right now. Yeah.
Yeah, they are really, really cheap. So now's hey, back in 1984 when Disney was in the toilet, I told a person that I didn't really care for in my class because she was always touting about how much money she had. I said, hey, how about you just go buy a bunch of Disney stock? And she did and made a ton of money off of this. So if you're going to buy Disney stock, buy Disney stock. But this analyst, I think from Wall Street Journal or New York Times, was like, who has the most money just sitting in a bank somewhere? Billions and billions of dollars worth. Apple.
Mm-hmm.
Now would be a great time for Apple to put in a bid for Disney, the whole of Disney, just so that they can boost up. And his argument was just so that they can boost up their Apple TV offerings.
Yeah, maybe I'm going to say something that's going to be shady, and I say this as someone who doesn't consume this streaming service. Maybe that Apple TV will be worth something.
Yeah, and I'm kind of the same way. I mean, I really want to watch Amazing Stories. I really want to watch that Woman on the Moon series, and there's one more series that looked pretty good. It's not the Jennifer Aniston one, the morning show.
The one that is calling itself TMS.
Yeah. But I have yet to pull the trigger on that, just because I don't really have an interest in it. Even though Amazing Stories could be amazing, I just haven't done it yet. And I mean, it's Steven Spielberg directing at least one. He's producing the whole series. It's got one of the actors who just recently passed away. So this is his role released posthumously.
Max von
No, not Max von Sydow. He was in Jackie Brown. We were talking about this a couple of weeks ago, I think on one of the pre-shows. I forget his name. It's in the superhero one. So I kind of want to see this. So
it was funny because after that report happened, I know Disney stock dropped even further. So
oh, really? Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. So that's, I mean, Then there's also this whole thing going on right now in Washington about people who were briefed on the current coronavirus situation and then sold a bunch of stock and told their friends to sell a bunch of stock. And then you saw a bunch of CEOs who may have already announced their resignation or were already on their way out before all this happened. And Bob Iger just happened to be one of those people. I hope not. But
and that's really tough stuff to speculate on. Obviously, the people who sold their stocks, we know they did it because that's a matter of public record. They did it. I want to believe the world is not an evil place, and I'll leave that sentence with a dangling participle.
No. And again, these are all rumor kind of things, but I just thought it was fascinating that Disney stock has dropped so low that it's actually an opportunity for Apple to go in and buy the entirety of Disney with just their cash holdings that they have. Because I think the last time I looked, Apple had something like $500 billion in cash holdings.
Oh, they're doing fine.
Yeah. They could buy all of Disney for $200-300 billion and still be fine.
Totally.
So going over to the chat, let's see. The Great NATO says that they're going to go live streaming with YouTube. In hopes that he can continue his Taekwondo. Now, our karate instructor has said for the next 2 weeks, nothing's going on, but he is updating his Facebook. Myself and another worker were talking the other day from the university that we'd be happy to go and help some of these teachers who don't know how to set up their streaming or don't know how to set up Zoom. Or in the case, I've seen a couple of people with Taekwondo. What's his name? Who does all the art? John Kovalik. He does martial arts as well. And his instructor did set up for streaming their lessons. So he and his daughter could continue to do their martial arts training from home and streaming it to the teacher. So that's really cool. Let's see. Malone seems to be very excited about Rosario Dawson being Asako. I'm not going to get it out. Sorry. Let's see. For All Mankind, that's the one about the first woman on the moon thing. Is great, says the Great NATO. And J. Michael T says, I read that story when it came out, and it sort of made sense for Apple to buy Disney. Nothing
Talk
actually.
about creating a monopoly, though.
I know, that would be the hardest thing to do, right?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, and then Scroll Brian, the OG podcaster, has popped into the room. He says, just making fun of Apple. Here's a new iPhone made from leftover parts from last year's phones. Yeah, no, that could happen too. I mean, everything's going to be delayed as things start to roll out. And then Kevin 11 has to run. Kevin 11 is always great. Great conversation. Got to run. Take care, all. Well, you can't really run anywhere. You're supposed to stay home. You're not supposed to touch your face, as I've been doing throughout the show.
Me too.
You're supposed to wash your hands regularly, which I do, with soap, which, sometimes I do. And you're supposed to stay in place. Now, again, I will say this as we wrap up the show this week, Ashley, that healthcare providers are extremely stressed right now because they have people coming in left and right, some claiming they have symptoms, people who actually have symptoms, but they are dealing with this stuff left and right. So be nice to your health care professionals, whether they be the person who's greeting you at the door, whether it be the nurse who is checking your temperature or the doctor who is examining you. Everybody's stressed. Everybody's under a lot of pressure. Everybody wants to flatten this curve and make sure more people don't get infected. But they are the ones that are on the front line and doing a lot to make sure that you are healthy. So please be nice to them. Also, keep in mind that you probably have a trash day. We had a trash day today, and the sanitation workers are still out there doing their job.
Essential services.
Essential services are out there every day doing the job just so that we can keep everything moving. And so you should be nice to them and thank them for their service. And there you go. Don't be a dick. Let's just put it that way. Ashley, what else is going on with you? Obviously not a whole lot if you are now forced to stay home except for going to the grocery store. What else is going on?
New Geek History lessons still coming out because I am quarantined with the person that I make those with, so that's really great. Blackest Nightclub is still going to be happening as per usual at the end of this month, and just wrapping up the writing on Jupiter Jet. So still a lot, but
and then start another couple projects. You got all sorts of time now. Start another couple projects. All right, Ashley, thank you so much for hanging out with me today, and thank you everyone in the chat and over there in the Discord for hanging out today. Don't forget, tomorrow, Saturday, we have the VIP live stream for our gold patrons and higher. Come in, sit down. We're going to chat. I'm going to tell you how the coronavirus has affected our business. It's actually affected us in some kind of monetary ways that I wasn't expecting. We'll talk about that. Plus, you can ask your questions about anything that's going on over at Major Spoilers, and we'll be happy to answer them for you. Matthew is supposed to be joining me this week, so it should be good times. And then 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon, we're jumping back into the video game streams, and I think I've got a new space game I'm going to try out. We'll see how that goes. Ooh. And maybe you'll enjoy it, maybe you won't. We'll find out. It's tomorrow, 3 o'clock p.m. right here at twitch.tv/Major Spoilers. Again, everybody take care, be good, do good, and we'll see you next time when it's finally Friday. And we should be clear now. Yeah, except I need to mute my mic there. Look at all those gold people. You know what? Unfortunately, I'm trying to avoid using that one word because now YouTube is demonetizing videos that bring this up or talk about it. And even though we were ancillary talking about this stuff, I'm pretty sure this video is also going to be demonetized on YouTube. Hey, thank you, everybody. KB Bells, Pleasant Doom, Malone, Squirrel Brian, let's see, Wayward Boy, Ingrid, thank you for showing up. Hopefully, everybody, Kevin 11, the one, J. Michael T, the Great Nate O. So many people showing up today. Thank you so much for coming and hanging out with us. Hopefully you had a good time. Hopefully you got a little bit of conversation. So much going on. Barely had time to rattle through it all. Here in a couple weeks, or maybe in a week or so, Vlad Gooley. Oh, Godson tested positive. Oh, that's too bad. I'm sorry to hear that. I hope your Godson gets better soon. But thank you, everybody, for hanging out. Here in a couple of weeks, we'll do a phone-in where you guys can call in and let us know what you're doing during this time. Be awesome. Thank you, everybody.